Hello, friends, everybody. Welcome to this new video. Starting from a subscriber question, I decided to create this new video. The focus on this video is to check out what's the secret to transport agility or agile methodology to other non-IT areas or industries. As many of you may know, agility was conceived in software development industry, and of course it's based on the complexity of software development especially, and all the historical context where it was happening. But now agility became worldwide famous, and now it's becoming applied and adopted for many others areas, industries, and challenges. And this is not a surprise. But let's explore what's the key to understand how to transport agility to other areas. Because the main mistake usually is to just trying to copy and paste the methods and practices. And this is the mistake. So let's go to the point. Let's start talking about, we're going to focus into three elements. I think it's very important to understand why agility was conceived and why it was created. What was the problem that we were trying to solve with agility? One second, please. So this question is important because when we try to copy methodologies and just to replicate practices, and we don't understand what's the problem behind that we're trying to solve, this is the main problem. This is the very frequent mistake I see in the streets. So, why at all it was conceived agility? What was the problem that people were trying to solve with this agility? So there were something that was called software crisis. And this software crisis was a situation around the 70s, 80s, and 90s years that almost every project, software development project, was near to fail. Failure was pandemic, failure was everywhere. Many projects were not ended on budget and time. Mostly of projects needs double budget than original plan. And as you may imagine, that creates a lot of burnouts, frustration, stress. And people will not recognize why this is happening. This is the software crisis, is the very origin of Agile. In that area before agility, the main methodology that was dominating the market was the RUP, Rational Unified Process. And there were other standards and standardizations that they were quite professional approaches, but they were facing some kind of a failing point. So what was the problem? Because the main problem, and it was not a technological problem. It was not a practical problem. Of course, software development is always challenging. It's always difficult. It's always difficult because we are dealing with complexity. So, but then if it was not a technical or technological issue, what was the problem? And that's why my personal interpretation is that this was not a software crisis. I understand that we call it software crisis because it happened in the software industry. But the problem was not in the software. The problem was between the keyboard and the chair. So between keyboard and chair is the human being. And if I will rename this software crisis, I would call it leadership crisis. Or I may call it also management crisis. Because mostly what was failing, what was ineffective, was the management paradigm. Because it was a paradigm that comes from the hard engineerings. And when you transport the hard engineering management paradigms to soft engineering paradigms, the software as a product has totally different nature. It cannot be planned so hard like can be planned to build a house. The plan to be a house needs to be almost perfect. And it's successful will we value by having 0% modification. In software is absolutely different. And additionally, I cannot send you a house per email. I cannot copy paste a house and then I have two houses. So software as a product and software developers as knowledge workers has totally different nature and behavior than the traditional engineering. And this complexity is the key point behind agility. So this is the problem to solve for agility. This is why agility was conceived and created. To be able to plan, organize, and flow with complexity. Then what happened? In 2001, a group of big players in the software industry meet all together, 17 brains in one weekend, made a big brainstorming and say, okay, how can we deal with this complexity? How can we be more effective in a complex world? In a constantly changing world with moving targets and instability. In February 2001, the guys you see in the picture met and created what we call the Agile Manifest, or the Manifest for Agile Software Development. It's already almost 22 years old, and the main key element behind the entire manifest, to not make it longer, is exactly what I think you see in the screen. It's more important individuals and interactions, moreover, processes and tools. But what was the obsession? Why the old management paradigm was so obsessed with processes and tools? Because it's a counter paradigm. that tries to solve everything through control. And when something don't works fine, just increase the control. And when you're working with so squeezing and plastic nature like software and software developers, it's not effective. So why individual interactions are more important than processes and tools? Because software engineering is a social engineering. It's based on relations. Actually, the quality of your relations will define the quality of the product. At that level. That's why it's not just to organize people, computers, tables, bring them together and put them to work. That's why in agility, many times, we dedicate time to build relations. This is the key point. Then the manifest includes many other concepts also, but let's focus on the main key elements to not make it longer and to understand how to transport agility to other fields like education, marketing. Many times people confuse agility with frequent delivery. This was a very typical confusion. Is to deliver things faster and frequently. As you can see in this picture, is 1/4 of the truth. It's just one feature into agility. It's one strategy we use in agility to increase adaptability. Because the main element behind agility was adaptability. Actually, the creators, those guys that meet that weekend, they wanted to name it differently, not agile. The main name for it was adaptive, not agile. But they could not use it because it was a protected brand from Xerox or some company. So then the name was agility or agile. But the name is not so important. The most important is to understand what's the strategy behind agility. What are we trying to deal with when we adopt agility? When we talk about complexity, and this is a key point, how we deal with complexity. Agility brings a proposal, tactics and strategies to deal with complexity. And many times we see many people trying to copy and paste the meeting structures, the practices, expecting that to become agile. And this is not the point. Agile is not a new way of run meetings. It's not a new way to communicate. It's not an email format. Agile is a new way of understanding the world. It's a new way to relate with complexity. Basically, that's why the basic core of agility is iterative model, making experimentations, doing try and fail exploration, because we are walking through unknown field where we can find a lot of surprises. And this is a key main point, because complexity has one special feature, and it is that it can create surprises. It's unpredictable. If it's unpredictable, it's not cannot be planned. It can only be explored. It can only be scoped. We're going to talk about that later. So basically, Agile is, at the end, is like organizing iterative models. And many people copy the structure of this iterative model, and they think that doing iterations is being Agile. No, this is just the beginning. It's a good beginning, but the main thing in agility is experimentation and exploration. You can write that now. When I think in complexity, I like to think in this picture. In this picture, when you observe those drop inks mixing with the water, we can see how complexity behaves. It's unpredictable. It's uncertain. And then how you can manage it. If this complexity is so chaotic, how can you manage it? No, you can't. This is the point. And then what is so effective that brings agility to deal with this complexity? Well, the strategy is to use glasses. Those cups, those glasses that you see in the picture, are used to deal with the complexity. So the complexity gets simply inside the cup, and then you manage bottles, glasses, but you don't manage how the ink is mixed. With my hands, I cannot manage water, but I can manage glasses. It's much far away, much more easier to transport, to sell, to manage, but I cannot manipulate the content. This is how it looks like when it's implemented. Let's try to make a practical example. Suppose that you are processing, you are building a software, and you will find on the way how to do it. You don't know what will happen. You don't need to know. You just need to focus where you're going and just progressing. And then you can create for example, 2 weeks iteration, and every 2 weeks, everybody meets again and rearrange and readapt the plan. This 2 weeks time that is repeating, that's why it's called iteration in an iterative model, are represented in this metaphor by the glasses. So it's like you define glasses. You cannot define how the water flows, but you define glasses. In those glasses, You don't know what will happen, and you don't need to. But what you want is that to happen. That way you open the space for it to happen. This is the way that agility deals with complexity. And of course, software development is not the only one field with complexity. We can find complexity almost everywhere. Actually, I would say in very few places you will not have complexity. It's really hard to not have complexity. Human beings are complex, customers are complex, society and culture is complex, technology is complex, and nowadays with the fast change of velocity, everything is becoming more complex. So we need to rethink our management paradigm. Let's take what I said and try to apply agility to other fields. For example, education. Is education complex? Of course. Of course. Each student is a complex human being. The teacher is another complex system. And the problem to solve is hard, is complex, and is changing. Actually, current education system is totally out of date and deprecated from the real current needs because it cannot change and adapt so fast as the world is changing. So, do education needs agility? Yes, of course. Of course, it needs agility because it needs to adapt to changes. It needs to evolve faster. This is still not, the evolution of the educational system is still not fast enough. World is changing too fast. So, okay, education needs agility. How we can apply it? Okay, the good news for you is that in some way, the agility for education was already invented, but not in 2001, many years ago, in 1907. Before First World War, before the sink of the Titanic, the agility for education was already conceived by an Italian teacher that calls Maria Montessori. This is my interpretation. This is my personal interpretation that this method that Maria Montessori conceived in 1907 has a lot of common components with the agility that was conceived in 2001 in software development industry. What it has in common with software development agility, it's based in small self-organized groups. The teacher is not a strict boss, there is no command and control structure. The teacher becomes a facilitator. The group of students became self-organized, and they use iterative approximation. So we are in the same concept. That's why the classroom changed from this to this. Where the student can be more spontaneous, authentic, the student can be himself, and the student don't need to adapt to the system or to the process. So if we watch the main element of Agile Manifest, individuals and interactions over processes and tools, in my opinion, in these pictures is quite clear. In the old classroom, the student must adapt to the system. In the new classrooms, the system adapts to the student. We don't put the student at the service of the system. Otherwise, we put the system at the service of the student. How can we apply agility to education? Okay, we can implement Montessori method. What does it mean? It means that there should not be standardization. Should not be individual metrics. For example, in the old classroom, each student success factor was individual. So there is no team working. And your success is measured by only knowing information and answering the right answers in a test. This was a metric in the old school system. Was effective enough in that area to approach to have an education system. But we all know that today we need change, we need improvement. So I'm not criticizing the old school method. I'm just saying the gap that exists between the old school method and the new school, the new world. Today we are preparing the kids to a world that don't even exist, and we don't know how it will be. So instead of teaching them knowledge and information, we should be helping them to develop skills like entrepreneurship, help us to learn from the experience, help them to respect and adapt, to be an explorer. We are going to an economy without employment, where the people will need to create their own work, and many others big changes that comes faster. So I think this was my review on this question. So thank you, Olenka, for bringing this question to the table. And let's make a quick review of this video. So we first start defining what was the software crisis, why agility was conceived, and it was conceived to deal with complexity. But software development is not the only one field where there is complexity. In marketing, education, HR, and you can name many others, there is complexity. And the traditional paradigm of command and control and planification and controlling is not effective in front of complexity. Many times it's based on the illusion of control more than the real control. So, I hope you can build a good environment where you can thrive with complexity. And I wish you success and health and a lot of learning. This is Ani Shainan for Liberating Talks. Liberating Talks is a network of coaches where we focus on transporting coaching to every area we can, to humanize leadership and to contribute to the new world. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you find it useful and have a happy and calm life. If you're struggling, if you're suffering frustration, it may be a sign that you are not dealing with complexity with the right strategy. So take your time, review your strategy, don't do plans. If you want to make God laugh, make plans. If you want to succeed, don't do plans. Well, I remember now a phrase from Eisenhower. He said, planning is everything, but plans are nothing. So planning is a great exercise to organize your work and your environment. But once the plan is conceived, don't follow it. Don't get married with the plan, because no plan survives the contact with reality. So I wish you a pleasant existence, and bring your questions, like and subscribe. Thanks for your support, and thanks for helping me distributing these ideas to make a happy world. So good night and see you soon.